guard of honor is going to be absolute hell for all Arsenal fans because the only thing that we can do at this point is just think to ourselves, what could have been? What could we have done different? What tactics could we have done? What formations could we have played? What players could we have brought in the January transfer window or before that, the summer transfer window that could have changed our perspectives on our hope for the season? Because a few changes, a few players coming in would have done Arsenal a world of difference, and it was very important for Arsenal to have more players in their squad. But the only thing that Arsenal can do at this stage is rue their decisions, be in regret, and wallow in it. And that is literally the only thing they can do from now to the end of the season, which is in what, 2-3 weeks? 3 games left. And in these 3 games, Arsenal are going to try their level best and do the very most that they can to get back into the Champions League places and keep their second place, because if they don't, then it's going to be harder for them in the Champions League, especially in the campaign next year, because it's obvious the lower position you are, the harder draws that you may face and the higher chance you may face tougher teams. But I don't know if that changes, especially with the new format, but I think logically it makes sense. But with Liverpool, I think a lot of people are saying that they're in hangover mode. They're just focusing on just finishing the season. But I think they're going to be ready for Arsenal. I think they want to really make a statement, especially for next season, and say, you know what, next season we're going to try again. And I don't blame them, because when you win one trophy, especially a major honour like the Premier League, all you want to do is win it again. And that is what Salah has said himself. They want to win it again, and I don't blame them. And that is exactly what winners do. And that's where I have to look at Arsenal, and I have to look at this entire club in general and say to themselves, or say to them really, what are you going to do from now till next season? And the thing is that I'm quite annoyed and fed up of looking at the transfer window, because for so many seasons, being an Arsenal fan, all the things that we focus on is the transfer window, the stupid transfer window. And the most annoying thing with the transfer window is that they never ever get fully prepared for the season. They always leave themselves a player short, and this has been going on since Wenger. Back then, we would buy a whole load of creative midfielders and attackers, and we leave our defense short, or we'd leave a DM short, or later on when we would have Giroud up top, we would leave a striker short. And Arsenal always leave things too late, and because of that, they always leave fans in a state of regret, what ifs, what maybe if we got this sort of profile of player. And this is a cycle that's been going on since for however many years, and it's frustrating, it's annoying, and it pisses me off, to be honest with you, because any team, any club around the world, especially top teams, they just buy the players they need and they leave it at that. But Arsenal always leave something at hand. They never get everything they need in the transfer window, and that's why throughout the season there's always this sort of frustration. What if they had this player? What if they had this striker? What if they had this defender? And it looks like Arsenal may very well get back into this situation again. And there's been talks about Arsenal having a 300 million transfer budget or something like that. I mean, I don't know. It's really ridiculous that we're even having these sort of discussions, and I'm not even sure if Arsenal are even going to pay that sort of money in this transfer window. But they showed this because of what's happened in last summer and especially in January. And I think that the board have a lot to answer for what they've done, because I can't believe even in January they couldn't even go for cheap signings, they couldn't even go for loan signings. You mean to tell me these brothers couldn't go and get Asensio, they couldn't get Rashford, they couldn't get maybe a free signing somewhere? Absolutely ridiculous, and it's stupid. And the board, the ownership haven't done anything to support this team, and I'll give Arteta some slack here. They didn't do it much to help him as well with the striker situation. But with Mikel Arteta is a bit of a different situation, because a lot of the things that's happened with Arsenal are to do with him, because overall this is his team, this is his formations, these are the players that he brought in, these are the profiles that he wanted to get in terms of personality and playing styles and versatility and all that other jazz. But that's essentially what it comes down to. And one thing that a lot of people probably missed or maybe have picked up on over the last couple of weeks, and something that I saw in the game against PSG, was when the graphic for Mikel Arteta came up, it said head coach, it didn't say manager. And I think that's very, very key and could be alarming to some, because with Mikel Arteta, people think that he may have complete control over everything at the club as a manager, and whether it's coaching, buying and selling players, what's happening behind the scenes and all that stuff. But to see him as a head coach, that would indicate that he's only solely going to focus on the coaching. And I think that's a very good thing, because over the last couple of years, Mikel Arteta has had a free hand with transfers and he was able to do what he wants. But at the end of it, we are 5 years into this godforsaken process and we only have one trophy to show for it, which was in the first season that he was here, or half a season that he was here. And since then, Arsenal haven't been able to win anything. So that's why there's a lot of hope on Berta to do something. I'm not sure if he's going to be awarded that level of time, but you know what? No manager should be given that much time anymore, especially in this day and age. I think that we need to see what happens for next season. And I think with the manager situation, look, I want to support the manager, whoever it is, but we also have to have tough conversations, and we also have to ask ourselves what is going to happen if Arsenal decide to keep Mikel Arteta for next season. Will Arsenal be able to get a major trophy or not, especially after all these years? Because it's not just a case of whether Arteta wins the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup, because he's been here for a very long time, and it doesn't make sense that after 5 years or so, that would be the result of it. With the amount of building he's done with this team, and with the talks of there being another rebuild, if there are talks at this stage of there being another potential rebuild, then that automatically tells me that this process has been a failure. And I think that with Arsenal and with the players that they may need, it's clear they need a striker, but they also need players in their depth. I mean, they need a top class depth winger, in my opinion. They need a top class striker. They need a backup cam, backup right winger. They need some players in midfield, especially if Jorginho is leaving. They need a backup for that. They need someone that can back up for Saliba, who can play on the right hand side, and especially a goalkeeper as well. So what's that, 4 or 5 players that they need to go in for? So there's a lot of things that's going to happen in the transfer window. And I think the saddest thing with the transfer window, especially for a lot of Arsenal fans, is that when you go into football, you just want to go in and not think about all that stuff, and you want to just look at the players you have and you just say, yeah, this is the team that's going to compete and get us over the line. But unfortunately, for a majority amount of seasons, as an Arsenal fan watching this over the last couple of decades, it's never ever been that case. There's always been, what if this happened in the transfer window? What if we got this player? That it's all nonsense, and it's all happened since Bernard and Higuain and Benzema and Luis Suarez. So many players that Arsenal have missed out on, and I think it's a scam that Arsenal have done to keep people invested in this so-called project. But unfortunately, there's been multiple projects and a lot of them have failed. So we're going to have to see what happens next season. But for now, in the game against Liverpool, I think they're going to be ready. I think in Anfield it's going to be rocking, and they're going to want to beat Arsenal. And a lot of rival fans are very happy as well that Arsenal lost against PSG. But let's be honest, United and Tottenham, they can't talk to Arsenal, especially at this stage, because yeah, they're in the Europa League final, both of them, but we're in better competition and we're a lot higher than them in the league, and we're doing better than them, essentially, despite the amount of shortcomings that Arsenal are going through. So they can hold that and they can shut the hell up and go chat to Europa League and all those little 14th place that they're in right now. But yeah, that's over them, and let's just see what happens in the weekend against Anfield. And I think one of the main things I really want to see is Ethan Neri getting starts now, and we need to see players getting dropped. We need to see, I don't want to see Saka starting. I think with that level of injury that he's had, that scar on his knee, we need to just leave him alone, let him rest properly, and let him go for next season. Saliba, if we had the chance to rest him, I would do it, but unfortunately I look at that bench and it's abysmal. There's nothing there, and we need to just rotate the squad. Maybe Liverpool might be a bit of a hard place to drop players, but The quicker we can drop players, the better, because I really don't want something to happen this season which would ultimately impact next season very negatively and give certain people excuses in which there are no excuses at this point. But yeah, Salah, Van Dijk, let's see how it goes. Anyhow, that's this video. Hope to see you all soon. Bye.